Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make this laced beaded macrame necklace, and this is what the piece looks like here. So I have simple macrame running up both sides all the way up to where I then have my clasp, and also added some beads, and then here is the main part, so the midpoint, the midsection, where I then obviously have the macrame and made it curved so it's going to sit nicely on the neckline, but then I added an embellishment on the downside here and kind of intertwined the beads, so it gives a nice look like this. Now I made this necklace to match a bracelet that I previously made, and it looks like that. So you can see I've used the same materials as well, just in case if you wanted to wear it as a set, they match nicely. So it's the same basic technique. Here I just turned it into a necklace instead with a curve, but here I then have the embellishment on both sides, but again with that intertwining effect of the beads, and it also sits nicely on the wrist. So I have a separate tutorial for this, but in this tutorial here I'm going to show you how to make the matching necklace. So these are the materials that we're going to need. First of all, here we need our cord. So this is a nylon cord of about 0.9 mil in thickness, and obviously I just got this nice purple colour. And then we need some beads as well. So these are both regular rounds, metallic beads, but these ones are 4mm rounds, so they're the larger ones. Then here I have some 3mm rounds, so just slightly smaller. So that's what we're going to use to add the embellishment with. And then I got my findings here to finish off the piece. So I got my cord ends to finish off the macrame, and then I got my clasp, so extended chain, lost or claw clasp, and then jump rings to give it a nice finish. You can obviously use whatever you want to. So let's get it all together and let's get started. And then what we'll need first of all is some lengths of cord here. So what I have is 3 lengths of about 1 meter each of our cord, and these are going to mainly be the holding cords and also used to add the embellishment. So then we'll need a long length of the same cord as well here, and this length is about 6.5 meters long, so it's quite a lot to work with, but it is a necklace that we're making, and also macrame takes up a lot of cord, so we're going to need this for the whole necklace part. So then what I've done here to start out with is taking my 3 lengths of shorter cords there, so the ones that are going to be the holding cords, and attach them onto my macrame board here. This makes it nice and easy to work with, has all these notches all the way around. You can obviously use whatever you want to that you have handy. And then we need to then take the long length of cord and attach it to this so we can start making our knots. Now what we need to do first of all is find the middle of this. So fold it over in half, put the ends together, and then this is where the midpoint is. And then I'm just going to put this one side of it underneath the holding cords here on the board. And get it all the way underneath, because then we want to attach this by making our first knot. So just lay it like this. Try and make sure the middle stays underneath, and then I want to start making a square knot. So I'm just going to take my left side over the holding cords, and then the right one over that, underneath everything in the middle here. So I lift it up, make sure to go underneath all the holding cords, and then up through the loop down the other side, and then pull that all the way through. And this is the first half of a full square knot, and also how we're attaching the cord. And then just tighten that. I'm just going to get it further up here to start out. Tighten it nicely. And then to do the other half, to make it one full square knot, I'm going to take the right side over the holding cords. The left one goes over that, underneath everything in the middle, crosses under there, and then up through the loop on the other side. And then pull it all the way through. And then there we have one full square knot, and it's attached now. But then what I want to do is make a few more square knots. So I want to make a section before I then also start adding in some beads just to the sides of the necklace to add a bit of interest. So now I made my first little section here of square knots, and I've just ended up with 16 in total. So you can make that amount, or you can make however many you want to. So you can either also count the knots, or you can measure this length. It's completely up to you. So now I want to start adding in my beads a little bit as well, to add a bit of interest to the sides of the necklace. So what I'm going to do is, on all 3 lengths of my holding cords in the middle here, I want to put on one of my 4mm rounds, so one of the larger beads. Push that all the way up, just like that, sitting underneath the bottom knot there. Then we need to cage this in with another square knot. So all I'm going to do is the exact same thing. I take my left one over, then the right one over that, and underneath everything in the middle, and up through the loop. So the exact same square knot. Difference is now we have this bead in place, and then that gets caged in when you then tighten the knot underneath it. and then finish off the knot by doing the other half. So just starting from the other side, pull it all the way through here, tighten that, and then it's another full square knot, and then you have your little bead there. So I'm just going to keep going basically. You can really do this however you want to, but I'm going to do 10 square knots in between each of my beads. So obviously I've done the first section, then I've added a bead, then 10 square knots, so I've already done one. I need to do another 9, then a bead, 10 square knots, a bead, so on, until I reach this side of the necklace length here that I want on this side. And obviously we're going to have this section in the middle as well. So just keep going like that. So I now made the full length here, that's going to be the one side of the necklace, and what I've ended up with is about 10.5 inches or 27 centimeters in the length of it, and also I have 9 of my beads in the pattern there. Obviously you can make yours however long you want to. And then now we reach the point here where I want to start adding in my double beads. So this is where we're going to start the midsection. And what I've also done is taken my work off the macrame board and I've started using pins instead, just because obviously it's gotten quite long and it's going to get even longer, but also this section in the middle is going to start curving, so it's just to make it a little bit easier to work with, using the pins to still keep it down and fastened. So what we need to do is add the beads here, and I'm just going to stick with one side at a time really. One side is going to be where we're going to add the embellishment, and the other side is the inner side, you could say. And on the left one is where I'm going to be adding my small bead. So this is a 3mm round, and that's going to be the inside. So just push that all the way up on the working cord. And then on the right here, we need to do a bit differently. On this side, this is going to be the side we're going to add the embellishment on. We need to use one of the 4mm rounds. And what I'm going to do also here is these 3 are my holding cords. So we're going to always have one holding cord, but we need to separate some out as well. So what I'm going to do is take one of the holding cords and then put that through my 4mm round. So just the one that's furthest out to that side anyway. Bring that down, and then I'm going to take my working cord from this side, so this side we're going to add the embellishment on, and put that through the same bead in the same direction. And what can help as well is, if you're using a synthetic cord like I am, can help to kind of just singe the end and then roll it to make a bit of a needle. Makes it much easier to get through your beads, especially when you're putting multiple cords through. And then just pull this all the way through, so we get the bead all the way down right here next to the other one on the other side. Push that all the way up there. Then I'm just going to separate out the cords again, and you just want to separate the long and the short one. The short one is the holding cord. That I'm going to take all the way out to the side, so just kind of get it out of the way. And then the long one here is the working cord. And then what we want to do is another square knot to cage in these beads. Around now we have 2 holding cords left. So I'm just going to do the same square knots. Pull it all the way through. So this is the first half. And tighten that, and the beads will then sit in place. And then finish it off from the other side. And then, as you'll be able to see at some point as well when we made a few more, it's the adding the 3mm to the inside and the 4mm to the outside. That's what's actually going to be creating the curve in the center part here. Just like that. And then they're caged in nicely. So now we're going to properly get into the midsection here. So we just need to make a few more square knots first of all, because I want to then have a pattern where we also have a single bead in the middle here. So we've had the 1 square knot there. I just want to make another 2 underneath this, so that makes 3 in total before I add in the next bead. That's just the pattern that I've chosen. Around both holding cords again. Keep making the square knots here in the same way. Always starting with the cord from the same side, whichever side you start from. So that's 2, and you need to make another one. You can already start to tell here where the knots are going in the direction they're going. It's more a bit towards the side now, just slightly, and that's because of how we added those beads in, instead of it just being a straight line like the beginning part was. Finish up this half as well. There we go. So now I just want to add in another bead, and I want to add that in the middle. So I'm going to grab my 2 holding cords and then grab one 4mm round, so that's one of the larger ones again, and then I want to just get both holding cords through the same bead here in the same direction. Just like that, and then push it all the way up and then cage that in the exact same way by making another square knot. And then what I'm going to do is, because I also want to repeat the pattern to stay consistent, so I'm going to make 3 square knots underneath this bead here in the middle, because that's in the equivalent to the 3 I did right before it. So just make those, and then we need to add in the next section, the next double beads there. Now that I then have those knots on the other side of that single bead, I want to add my double beads again. So on the inside there, the same size as before, I add my 3mm round, and then we need to add the 4mm round on the outside. So I'm going to get my bead here, and again, because we still have 2 holding cords left, we still want to just separate one out that we're going to use for the embellishment as well. So I'm just going to take the one furthest to that side, put it through the bead, like that, and then take the working cord from the right side there and through the same bead in the same direction again. So just the exact same thing that we did before, and pull it all the way through. So we get the bead pushed all the way down again. Just like that, and it sits there nicely. And then again, we just need to take the short cord, the one that was the holding cord, and bring it out to the side again to get it out of the way, just like before. And then push the beads up, and now we just have the one holding cord left, and that's what we're going to be working with for a bit now. Make a square knot to cage these beads in around the single holding cord, just like that. Complete it here, so the same place, and then we have the 2 cords separated out that we need to. And you can also see here it's starting to curve, because this is kind of what it was like straight, the straight piece here, and it's curving inwards, and it'll keep doing that every time we add that double section of beads all across the mid section here. So you can just keep turning it to make it more comfortable to work with. So again, I'm going to make another 3 knots here, in total, so another 2 than what I've already done. 3 knots, and then I add the middle bead, and then 3 knots, and then I just add the double beads again. And that's again the 3mm on the same side as all the other times, and then the 4mm on the outside. Now the only difference is we just need to put the working cord through that one on the outer side as well, because we only have the one holding cord left. So you just want to do that for the length that you want the midsection to be. And this is the point that I've got to here. So you can see we have a nice curve going, but I haven't quite finished off this curved section yet, so the middle section, because what we need to do is the cords that we separated out when we made the first double beads there, we also need to bring them back in, kind of in the same way, but just reverse. But we can't do that until we've then added the embellishment here. So what we just need to do is add the embellishment before we can add in the last sections there. So to do that, we need to go back to them up here. So I'm going to go back to the very first one. So the very first one we separated out, the top one, and we need to add some beads onto these. So take that one, and then we need to add the 3mm beads on, and I've already done that here. And what I have is 16 of them, because we basically need to have enough to reach to the next step. So it's coming out from the first double bead there, then we're going to skip over the next double beads, and then we're going to go through the third double beads. That's why it needs to reach all the way down there, while having a nice little drop. So just add all the beads, push them down, and then I'm going to take the end and then go through the 4mm round in the third double beads there section. So just go straight through it, and again having that kind of needle at the end of the cord really helps if you singe the end, and then pull it all the way to tight like that, and you can see it sits nicely there. That's the first one. Then I'm going to put that back out to the side, and then the next top one is the next one down. So we're basically just going to do the exact same thing to that one. So you take the 3mm beads and you add 16 of them onto this card as well. And then that one goes from that double beaded section, skip the next one, and then go through the one after that with the end, and always go through the 4mm round, so the large one, but then the one that's sitting kind of on the outside here, because that's the part that's going to be hanging downwards, and obviously we have the embellishment on this side. So just go through that, pull it tight, and you can see that sits nicer there as well, and we're going to get this kind of intertwining effect as well. So there we go. You just basically want to keep doing this. Then you want to add 16 beads again onto the next top one and jump down to the one down here, then add 16 again. But then we got to a point now where that's when we want to start bringing the cords back in as well. So now I added these little flourishes on the side there, so the embellishment, and I've reached the point where, like I said, the one that I'm going to go through next I haven't actually added in yet. So that's what we need to do now. So that's what we need to make one of those double beads. So that means on the inside, in my case the left one here, on the working card I'm going to add that 3mm round, but then on the outer one, which is the one we need to go through with this one next, we need to add the 4mm one. So first of all I'm going to take that cord here that I've been adding the embellishment with, so the next one that I'm due to bring down, I've already added all my 3mm rounds there as the next embellishment section. Then I'm just going to go through the 4mm round with that cord. Then I'm going to take the working cord from this side as well and just go through the same bead in the same direction like that, and then pull it all the way through. So basically, like I said, what we're doing is the exact same thing as when we started out and separated the cords out, except now it's kind of just reverse. So just pull it all the way through here, and then I want to add and push the bead up all the way. So just pull the cords tight so they sit nicely, and the bead sits all the way up there where it can't go any further. And then you just need to separate out the short cord. That needs to go back in and become a holding cord again. So instead of taking it out, we're now adding it back in. So that means that I'm going to make a square knot here now around these two holding cords in the middle with the two same working cords. Make sure to go underneath both here. And then tighten this all the way up underneath the cord. Make the other half of the square knot to fasten it in place. And then we're back to having two holding cords. So I made the square knot, and then what I just want to do is take that holding cord that I just used for the embellishment and just pull it, so just in case you have any little bit loose cord, just pull it a bit tight, because we can still do that with just having the one knot there, just to make sure we don't have any too loose cord. So there we go. That's now the beginning of the next. So what I'm going to do is get to the place where I need to add the next one in here. So that means I'm going to be doing the same section over again. So I need to have 3 knots here. I've already done the one, another 2. Then I need to add the bead in the middle, and then is where we need to have another 3 knots, and then we add in that double bead again. So the bead on each side. So just get to that point where we then need to bring in the other cord as well. So once that I then made the section here, and I've got to that next point where it's going to be double beads, then I've also added all the beads for the embellishment on that cord, and we need to add that 4mm round onto both that cord with the embellishment and also the working cord there. And just to mention as well, what I ended up with, obviously you might want to make yours different, but I added the first cord that I brought back in was on the 6th double bead, and the next one here is on the 7th. So just to mention that, this is going to be then the last one. So just push that 4mm round up so it sits nice and tight in underneath there, and you get that nice curve again. So there we go, and then make sure the shortest cord is the one that gets brought back in to be the holding cord. So you now have 3 again, and you just make a square knot around this to fasten it in place, just like the other times. And I then made my square knot there, so it's all held in place now. And again, you just want to take your cord that you just added in, just do a little tug to make sure it's all nice and even throughout. So really that's the main part done. All that's left to do now is finish up the other side, and that's just the exact same way as over here. So I've already made my first knot, and then I'm just going to go into the same pattern. I'm going to make my 10 square knots, add my single bead on all the holding cords there, and then so on until I have the same length. And again, you can obviously measure that, or you can count your beads and then finish off with the same amount of knots as well. And then once you've done that, all that's left to do is finish off the ends. So this is then what the necklace looks like once I've finished the whole piece. So the midsection here, and then also each side, and all the way up to the ends. So all that's left to do with it now, like I said, is finish off the ends here. So what I'm going to be using are these cord ends. So they kind of have from the end this horseshoe shape, and where you then put your cords in, I'm also going to like to add a bit of glue just for the extra security, and then you clamp them down. So I already have a tutorial where I show how to use them. So what I'm going to do is put a link to that in the description box below. But you just want to do that on both sides, and then you have these little loops where you can then attach your findings as well, whatever kind of clasp that you'd want to use. Obviously if you want to finish it off with an adjustable macrame closure, you can also do that. It's completely up to you. Only thing I would do is recommend you just start out with some longer tails than this, so you have enough to do that with. But finish off the ends here, and then you'll have your finished necklace. So this is in the final necklace here, after I've finished off the ends and attached my clasp. And it looks like that, and obviously you can make it as long as you want to really. This is just what I prefer. So this is the look of it, and the effect that you get with intertwining the beads down here like this, the embellished part. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you very much for watching.